In this video, we'll try to understand how we can handle multiple submit buttons in a single form in MVC. Means what? For example, you can see on your screen here, I have a simple screen and it has a form and it has two submit buttons. One submit button is a save and the other submit button is a delete. Now what I want is, when I click on the save action of the customer controller should get executed. When I go and click on the delete action of the customer controller should get executed. So let us try to see that what is the best way to approach this. Now there are three ways by which you can solve this problem. The first one is the most easiest way, multiple forms for multiple submit buttons. In other words, what I can do is I can go and create two forms here. So one form for the first submit button and the other form for the second submit button. So this first form will point towards the action which is save, right? And the second form will point towards the action which is delete. Okay, action which is delete. So if I now do a Control F5, so there my screen is running. So if I now click on save, it goes to save. If I click on delete, it goes to delete, right? So this is the first way of handling this situation. So you can call this way as HTML way or the multiple forms way. But now a lot of people, probably would like to do like this. They would say that, they have only one form. Okay. So in other words, they have just like this. Okay, so they don't really have multiple forms, or they do not have the luxury to create multiple forms. So in that case, how do we handle it? So so you have a situation like this, and in real time you will always have a situation like this, where you have you have only one form and you have multiple buttons. So now how do you solve this problem? So if you have this restriction of having a single form and multiple submit button, then the next decent approach to solve this problem is by using jQuery or JavaScript. So what we can do here is basically you can write two functions here. So you can approach this problem in the following way. So you can have two functions. Let us say this is for save, and this function is for delete. And on the click of this submit button, I will call first save, and on click of this submit button, I will call delete. And now what we can do is we can go and use jQuery. So I can go and drag and drop this jQuery file over here. And then I can say here, okay, $.post. So here I'm going to go and post to save, right? And once it is successful, I will call this function here called as fun1. Okay, the callback function. In the second function, I will make a post to the delete, right? And this function fun1 is nothing but it's a callback function. So I can just go and put here alert data. So now let us go and run this application. Let us see how it looks like. /data screen. So when I click on save, you can see save has been called. When I click on delete has been called, right? But again, this is good solution. It is Ajax oriented. It is using jQuery. But what if someone says that, okay, I don't want to use jQuery. Okay, I don't want Ajax. I want that old submit HTML, right? And I want a more elegant solution. So in short, he is now not looking at jQuery. He wants some other solution, right? So how do we go and approach this problem? So the other approach is by using the action name selector attribute. Okay. Now this action name selector attribute is a more server-side way of solving this multiple submit button problem. What is this action name selector attribute? This action name selector attribute is nothing but it's a class, and this class will help us to write the conditional logic on which you can go and say that, okay, if this condition is true, then you go and invoke this action. If this condition is true, then you go and invoke this action. Okay, so in other words, what I can do is I can go and create a class here. So it's more of a server-side solution. I'll say that, okay, submit button, right? And I will inherit from the action name selector attribute. So let me go and have a name here, right? So this name is nothing but it is the name of this submit button. Okay, so if the name is save, then I would like to go and invoke this save. And if the name is delete, so in case if the submit is coming from the delete submit, then I would like to go and invoke this, right? So in other words, what I can do now is I can go and decorate here saying submit button. Okay, so if the name is save, then you invoke this, and in this case I'll say if the name is delete, then you invoke this action. So now this name value here, the save and delete, gets passed to this class, right, through this property. And over here we also need to write the logic, saying that if that value is found here, then it should return true, so that he can execute this method, right? So for that we need to go and write the logic in the isValidName function. So if you look at this isValidName function, it actually returns a boolean. Okay, so over here I'm going to go and say the following. So over here the first thing I will say, go and get this name value, whatever is this name value, that is save or delete, go and try to find this value in the value provider collection. Now what is this value provider collection? This value provider collection is nothing but whatever comes from your data entry screen. So whatever comes from that form, the button name, the text box name, whatever are the UI values, they all come in a name value collection in this value provider. So in that I'm going and searching this name. In other words, I'm searching the save and delete. So if I find, or I'll say rather, if I don't find my name, that means return false and don't execute the function, right? Or else return true. So now if you see this this attribute here, submit button, it will return true or false, right? Return true and false. So if it is true, right, if the submit button function is returning true, that means if this isValidName is returning true, then it will go and execute the respective functions, or it will not. Okay, so in other words, that's what the name is, action name selector attribute. Action name selector means it will actually go and select the action names depending on what logic you have written in the isValidName. Okay, so let me again revise what will happen. The request will first come to the action name selector attribute. The action name selector attribute will make a decision here saying that does that name exist in that collection? If it exists, then accordingly he will go and execute the actions. So let me go and do a control F5. Let us see how this runs. Control F5. So there my application is running. So here I will say, what is that? Have I written something wrong? So if the value is not equal to, so if the value is equal to null, right? So in other words, if this value, this name is not found, right, in the collection, then it returns null. So if the value is equal to null, then return false or else return true. I'm so sorry for this. So let me again rebuild the solution. Right, let us again try to run this. So I hope that this time there are no errors, and there are no errors. So now if I click on save, still problems. Okay, let us check. So this logic is fine. It is decorated here. Oh, we have not specified the action. Okay, good that these errors are coming up and it's all happening live. Now the action cannot point to a particular action result, right? It can only point to the controller, isn't it? So here I'm going to say, okay, action, you just point to the customer control. Right. Build this. It's HTML change. I don't have to build it, but still, like. So let us see now. Let me go and first press enter. So basically, when you are using this action name selector attribute, right, ensure that you post to the controller. You only just give the controller name, and the action name, the selector will figure out. Okay. So now let me go and click on save. You can see now save is getting executed. Now let me go and click on delete. Now delete is getting executed. And tomorrow, the best thing about this approach is tomorrow you just go and add new submit buttons here, or you add new UI types, right? And you go and you add new actions here. You just go and specify the name, and automatically he will figure out what to do, right? So basically, when you have this multiple submit button issues, there are three ways by which you can solve it. First one, HTML way, where you have two forms, right? And for every form, you specify a submit button. The second one, jQuery way, where basically on the click of the button, you will actually go and say $.post to the respective actions. And the last one, which is a very clean approach, is by using the action name selector attribute. Okay, so here the action name selector attribute provides you a place, where you can go and write such kind of a if condition, and depending on this if condition, the actions will get executed. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much.